I can't remember ever hearing anything positive about a black person growing up.
Before college, Mark Mozzone's world had been the white ethnic neighborhood of East Boston.
The stereotype a lot of white people have is that they're gangsters and they all got guns and they're all gonna kill you and you better watch out.
I ask myself that question every day. Why would I be different because of the color of my skin?
Across Boston, Brian Allen grew up in a black neighborhood, attending integrated schools.
I mean, you can't think about that without like almost getting philosophical. Like, was the man always like that? And at one point there had to be one color. There had to be, and then it spread out, and then those two groups. But what made those two groups say, okay, this group is better because they have a certain skin color and that group is less?
Now, Brian and Mark are two of the thousands of students attending the University of Massachusetts at Amherst.
I did expect to see a lot of different races here, but I think I ended up finding a lot more.
There's not a lot of minorities on campus. You can feel eyes on you.
Like in high school there was only 2, and that was more than grammar school, which was only 1. And then I came here and there was, thousands.
In classes, like, I might be like maybe 1 out of maybe 35 students, maybe 2 out of 75.
The filmmakers brought Mark, Brian, and 21 other students from around the country together for 3 days to face each other and look beneath the surface of America's racial divide.
We were one of the first Vietnamese family, probably one of the first Asian family. It was primarily a white town.
My freshman year in a sociology class, my professor says, "Well, you're the black student in here. Could you tell us how black people feel about this?"
I took a Chicano studies class my freshman year, and that made me very militant, so I just forget all white people, they're just bad.
I'm afraid of being judged just because of the color of my skin. She's white. She's probably racist.
Nobody's really privileged due to their skin color or anything like that. It's just, you are who you are, and look in the mirror and, be proud of yourself.
If people are making anti-Semitic remarks, I can just go home and nobody has to know I'm Jewish. And I realize that's a luxury that I can choose.
There's a certain amount of anger that comes from the past, realizing that my family, because they had to assimilate through their generations, don't really know who they are.
I say we all suffer differently. Certain people have a false sense of inferiority. Some people have a false sense of superiority. But everybody does suffer from racism.
Behind these voices are family beliefs and childhood experiences. Before bringing the students together as a group, we talked with them individually about the role that race has played in their lives.
Really a nice spring day. I was playing with some kids. This was my birthday, and we were playing Cowboys and Indians, and I didn't want to be an Indian because they always lost, and on TV, as I always saw it, they always lose. Oh, I don't want to be, so I got to be, but of course I got to be the Indian because I was darker than the other kids, so they're like, well, you look like an Indian, so you should be one. I'm like, okay, whatever. But of course, we lost in the end in that one. And then my dad picked me up, and he was taking me home because my mom and dad were divorced, and he was taking me to his house for the weekend. And we were driving down there, and I asked him the question, did you have to be an Indian? Did you ever have to be an Indian? I didn't want to be an Indian today, and I had to be an Indian. And I was like, just rambling on. He was all, you are an Indian. You are a Native American. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's all, well, your blood is Native American. I'm like, and I was a kid, so I really didn't understand. The only thing I could do is, I did with the TV would do with the Indian. I did the war cry thing, the ooh thing. I did that, and he pulled over and said, that's not the kind of Indian we are. And that stuck with me, and I was always, if we're not that kind of Indian, what kind of Indian is there?
I remember in the 5th grade, we had this yearbook or whatever, and a girl signed it. I thought she was really beautiful. She wrote, she said, Khan, I know that you might be an ugly person, but to me, you're okay as a friend, you know? I remember that.
In junior high, I liked this boy, and I told my mom all about how I liked him and everything, and she said, well, he's Mexican-American, you know, or he's Mexican, and that was probably, and I was, well, I guess he is, but I'd always seen him as just another boy, you know, that I, you know, thought was cute, you know, and that was probably the first time where it hit me that, well, maybe it's not okay for me to like this boy.
In school, anytime African Americans were talked about, they would be referred to as niggers, and me not knowing anything, and my parents not telling me, you know, anything, because they really didn't know either. I just thought it was okay. So, you know, whenever I said and talked about African Americans, I said niggers, you know. So one day, me and my older sister, Angela, we were in Kmart in Bakersfield, and they had like this little hat rack, or this little rack hat display area, and I was sitting in front of a mirror. I was putting on a hat, and there's like a black family about 7 feet away from us. So I put on this hat, right, and I was like, damn, I was like, Angela, look, I look like a nigger in this hat. And she turned around and she was like, shut up. They call me Judy. They're like, Judy, shut up. She's like, if they hear you, they're gonna kick your ass. And I was so taken aback by that because I had no idea.
My neighborhood is all white. That's something that I never really thought about until I got here, and I realized that, you know, I never had to live, you know, now there's people living next door to me who are from different cultures, and I always lived in a white neighborhood, and I never really experienced how other people lived. The gangs, the crime and the drugs are the things that my parents and all my friends' parents and all the people at Channel View complain about all the time. You know, let's build more prisons. And that's just not the solution. Every time I go home, we have this big discussion, philosophical discussion about my beliefs and their beliefs and why I believe this and why I believe that. And they'll listen to me, but they'll not necessarily understand. It's hard.
You know, there's something wrong, or there's some sort of imbalance, whether you're able to articulate that imbalance or not, when you know that you can't have everything as the next person next to you. When you know that you have to, you know, being 10 years old, have to get up 5:30 in the morning to go work in the field to help your mom and dad. We always used to go like across the tracks and just look at these huge houses, and we're like, wow, you know, that's where I'm going to live one day. You know, me and my friends would just go out there and choose which house was our favorite, you know, which had the prettiest lawn, you know, the greener grass, you know, the most trees, you know, it was just silly stuff like that. And you go back to where we lived, and like the apartment complex where it was like 4 blocks long, and all the houses were the same. I got into UC Berkeley through affirmative action, and I'm not ashamed to say that, because nobody else is doing my homework. Nobody else has to work like 5 jobs to pay the rent or to do whatever, to send money back home, to help my sisters out when they needed to. I can't call my mom up and be like, oh, Mom, I'm not going to be able to make rent. Can you please pay it for me? I can't do that. I hate that. It's all in the quality of education you get when you're growing up. And if you have the funds to get a good education, then you're sure as hell going to be more qualified than the next person who doesn't. So I can't I ain't gonna stand to listen to somebody tell me that I'm less qualified because I didn't have the resources as when I was younger to get the type of education that they did.
You almost out of the fire? Marco, how's school going?
My father grew up a long time ago when there was no blacks, no Asians, no anything but Italians in East Boston. He's lived in East Boston his whole life, and he's never gone anywhere else besides maybe New Hampshire as the furthest. So I don't blame him for his way of thinking.
When the blacks say you owe us something, what do we owe them? 200 years ago, we weren't here. My father wasn't here. We owe them nothing. If they want something, they should go to work and get it.
When your grandfather came here, the immigrants were from Eastern Europe. Now they're Asian immigrants, and these Asian immigrants are working very hard. I have the children in school, the Cambodians, the Vietnamese. There's a work ethic there, and those kids try, and they really achieve. If you try hard, you can do it.
When my father came to this country, he was 14 years old, got nothing for nothing. If he wanted to eat, he went to work. Today, they give everything away to everybody, and many of them don't deserve it. Some do, okay. The people that don't deserve it shouldn't get it.
I basically started in the gospel choir 2 years ago with my father. I didn't tell him the first few times. My director at my high school, his friend, asked us to be in the choir, and we said, of course. And the first time I was there, I really felt uncomfortable. Obviously, there was all, African-American people there that I felt like I had nothing in common with. I felt totally out of place. And after a while, I kind of realized, the major thing I realized was that must be how they feel when they're in my school and there's only 2 other black people. It's just getting to sing something that I love to do with other people that are totally different than me, but they love to do the same thing.
As a freshman, I came in and I had never really thought about my ethnicity, but apparently the other people had. So I'm Jewish, and I moved into my freshman dorm, and my roommate was born and raised in Texas and not very familiar with Jews. And in fact, she had told me, her mother had told her that she didn't want to go back, her daughter, to go to school back east because there were too many Jews back there. So all of a sudden, something that I hadn't really considered such an important part of me really made me stand out to some of the most pivotal people in my life freshman year.
The University of California at Berkeley has the most diverse student population of all the major American universities.
I feel a lot of times being in Berkeley that I'm walking on eggshells because ethnicity is such a big topic on campus now, and I fully support people getting to know their roots. But like in my ethnic studies class, I feel self-conscious of my color when I go in, that I shouldn't be there, that I don't deserve to be there. it's hard to discuss things. I don't feel like it's a free area to ask the questions that I want to ask, because it may come out racist or be perceived racist, misunderstood, or perhaps I am, but I'm in there to change, and I don't feel that it's an educational setting that permits questioning.
All they want to see is that they let X amount of blacks, Latinos, so on and so forth in. After that, if they get in, they don't care about you. There's no support groups. There's no, I mean, you have to build that yourself. They're trying to rectify a problem that reaches all the way back to the first day you're born, basically, as a black person in this country. You know, you're already brought up and kind of shaped into this non-thinking, violent, emotional, unintellectual being. And by the time you get to high school and then they try to put you in a university environment, they know that that there's a higher possibility for you to fail out. There's a high attrition rate amongst African Americans in this university. They know that's going to happen. You're going to return back to your community feeling even more downtrodden because you're going to be like, well, I tried and I failed.
African American Studies major should be at the very front of the line, and then Margaret Fortune, and then the grad committee. Everybody else, move back.
Whoa, Praise
God. The amount of hoops we have to jump through on this campus, you have to have something that celebrates your success. Black graduation is one of them.
I was lucky. I went to a very integrated high school. I had a lot of white friends. I knew everybody, basically. I knew a lot of people. Coming to school where there's not a lot of other minorities, we sort of had to pull together. You know, I couldn't really bridge both worlds. And if it ever came down to a choice between being black or trying to spread out, I'm gonna definitely go with my people, because they've always been there, they'll always be there. So I couldn't really have as many interracial friendships. I tried if they happened, but I never really initiated them, like I would have in high school maybe.
(3691) or 545 FM 91. If you have any requests or dedication, call me up and I'll see what I can do for you. Until 12.
One of my friends, he hates white people with a passion, you know, and I feel sorry for him. Because of the way society is, he's lost a piece of himself. The traditional first caller, hook him up.
You're live on the air. What's up?
He's only 19 like me, and he already has that. He already has that burden on him, you know. It's already affecting him that much, and I worry that I might get that way.
Yo, what's up? Can I request a song?
Sure, go ahead, guy.
Dude, chill. What's up, nigga?
Hey, yo, man, ain't no niggas down here, you know what I'm saying? Use your head, you know what I'm saying, if you're gonna make phone calls.
MUA.
How you doing?
I'm starting to feel that way sometimes. I start to feel that way.
I don't want to talk about Clinton.
Until the 1960s, Texas A&M was a segregated, all-male school.
I'm trying to understand why African American students don't feel like, won't get involved in some of our organizations and don't feel a part of A&M. And so I felt like, okay, maybe I need to put myself in a situation like this and it'll make me understand a lot more. And I wanted to have more contact with the African American students on our campus and understand the issues that they're facing. And so I joined Black Awareness Committee one, for the social thing, because right now my group of friends isn't very diverse. And I felt like maybe I would take the first step and maybe they'll take a step and join some of our organizations. I think there have been times when I've gone into a meeting and sat by a student that really didn't feel comfortable sitting by me and really didn't want to sit by me. And that was difficult for me. I was like, how can you not, how can you not want to sit by me? But there are some students in there that I think believe I'm the enemy.
No, I don't think I've ever racially been in the minority, no. I've been sitting there with the guys outside, and it's just, we're sitting around at night and gotten into a little name-calling event to see who can think up the most, who knows the most slang terms for black people. We'll sit there and, we'll use the word nigger. Nobody openly admits it. I can't believe I'm admitting it right now, But you ask for the truth, so.
Okay, the next movie that we're going to show you is The Fabulous Dorseys. And it was
you get tired. It's what it is.
It's the biography of the two brothers, and they're played by themselves in the movie, Tommy and Jimmy Dorsey. Also,
you don't have a place where you feel like you can rest, where you're not always constantly defending yourself or your people. At the very beginning, you showed us a clip of Al Jolson and that kind of thing. Do you think you could have explained it more in the context of how you presented it, or because to some people in the audience, I talked to a couple of people, they're very offended by you putting that up there and not maybe explaining it more.
Okay.
I think that it was just an introduction to how movies came about. It was really what didn't have to do with our topic. We were doing it
I'm
on
not
big
trying to
fans.
be. It's just that I don't think it occurred to you at all that it might be offensive to some people sitting in the audience. We're always known as complainers too. And I always think, if we really complained about everything that happened every day, we'd never shut up.
I think that we were attacked by you. I did not know what was going on.
I was attacked. How did you feel that I was attacking you?
Because I had no idea. We were not doing a project on Al Jolson or on, exploiting blacks. We were just doing an introduction, which if you had been listening, you would have heard the introduction. We were not doing a multicultural project. And
I'm well aware of that.
If we were, we would.
I think it's important for us to talk more than anything.
People understood that.
Because even if you can't change someone's mind, at least you're exposing them one more time to an idea that's different than their own.
We brought the students to a retreat center in Northern California for the 3-day meeting. At first, everyone had a position to defend. Everyone had a corner to stand in.
I'm responsible for my actions. Okay, if I go out and make a horse's patoo to myself, if I go out and do something like that, I'm responsible for that, okay? Both sides of my family fought in the Confederacy, and we still got land down there. Now, I can say in hindsight that was wrong, and everybody in this room knows that that was wrong. But there's no way I can step back and correct that.
Well, one thing that you must definitely understand is that this is what we're discussing today is how this country was founded. And because you are a white male, people are going to hate you.
There are a lot of things that are going on presently that we need to deal with. Darvis is saying, well, my grandparents, my this, my that. Presently, what is going on? The IMF presently, the World Bank presently, NAFTA presently, news media presently. Gannett, Time Warner presently, the diamond factories presently, reservations presently, ghettos presently, barrios presently. We have to, I mean, things are happening now. Slavery still exists.
1.2 that I think a lot of white people need to hear is that white people are very affected by internalized racism just as much as people of color are affected by internalized racism, okay? For me, being an Asian person, a person of color, growing up in this society, I was taught to hate myself, and I did hate myself, and I'm trying to deal with it, okay? If you're a white person, you gotta know you were taught to love yourself because you're white. You were taught to think that you're better because you're white. And if you're not gonna deal with the fact that that's bullshit, that you have shit in your head saying that you are better, then you're not gonna deal with racism.
I just want to say that since I've been here, I felt really uncomfortable because I feel like the minority. I feel like every time I get a look, you know, it's like blame is hitting me right in the face. And I, you know, and I know it isn't, but I mean, you can't keep blaming me. You can't blame white people. You can't, I mean, if you hate racism so much, don't categorize all white people because you're only doing it right back. And it's only making things worse. Like, I know since I've been here, failing the blame is only making it worse for me.
I will not stop being angry, and I will not be less angry or less frustrated to accommodate anybody. You guys have to understand. White people have to understand my frustration because we have been oppressed for 400 years, 2,000 years, as Taja said. And you guys have to understand where we're coming from. And if you take offense, so... I'm not here to tell you pretty things. I'm not here to tell you that it's gonna be all right. Let's all hold hands and live happily ever after and walk into the sunset together.
Two things I want to say are, first thing, I'm an individual and I refuse to validate anyone who wants to judge me on the basis of my skin color. I try as hard as I can not to do that to other people, and I don't like it to be done to me. Second thing is I don't think that anyone can actively really make some changes in the institutions until they change what's internalized. That's what I have to say.
I'm all for you know, judging someone on who they are and that individual at that point in time or whatever and their attitude. However, if you want me to judge you on an individual basis, judge me on an individual basis. If I go out and I shoplift, the first thing that's going to happen when those white people see me or whoever sees me is, oh, you know they all shoplift. And every black person in that store at that point in time is going to be like, damn. God damn. You know? Because it has an effect on 22 million African Americans in this country. If one black person does something, we all suffer. Every last one of us.
I know for myself, I don't want to be held responsible for what somebody before me did, because I wasn't there. I had nothing to do with the decisions of other people. But what offends me, in a sense, is that the statement that I heard earlier, it seemed more to me that I can look at you, Tammy, and say, I don't blame you for that, because that's not on you. But the fact is, you still benefit from it. And that's what I need you to claim. Not that it was your fault, because it's not. But the fact is, you still benefit from it to this day. And the people who are oppressed from that are still oppressed from that to this day. That's all I wanted to say.
I personally try to take responsibility for my past, and I...
It's go deeper than...
No, I know it is. What I'm saying is that...
I don't want you to apologize to me. I don't want you even to have to tell me that you are an individual. What you need to do is do your own thing, and don't explain it to us, because we don't want to know. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, she was going to explain some other stuff, but
you know,
I wasn't going to explain.
I mean, it's not like
what I meant as an individual. The way that y'all took it wasn't what I meant. So I wasn't trying to say that I was separate from my people. That's all.
No, I mean, that's, you know, when I say I don't want to hear it, it's not. I don't want people to come up to me and tell me their plan for a.
Right, I know you don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear your plan either. I mean,
you know what I'm saying?